Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'm going to be covering the weather for May 27th of 2023. Currently we have a dual slight risk setup for pretty much the exact same area as we saw yesterday, as well as a slight risk area for further down south in the New Mexico to Texas area. And then for our threats, we have a 2% tornado threat further up north and a 5% tornado threat for the slight risk down south. And as for our wind threat, we have a 15% in both locations. For our hail threat, we have a 15% for the northern slight risk area, as well as a significant hail threat on top of a 15% for the southern slight risk. Taking a look at our pivotal weather models, we do have a very weird mid-level flow jet stream set up here. There's a very weird pattern with a high risk situated right here, as well as two weaker low pressure systems inside of one big low pressure system, as well as a low pressure system with a lower trough throughout much of this area, as well as a high pressure system further up north, which is bending the jet stream in a very weird way. So we have jet stream that is coming down south with mid-level flow that is going to be triggering severe weather up north, as well as mid-level flow coming from the Pacific Ocean, which is going to be triggering severe weather down south. But continuing forward, you can see that the increased jet stream from yesterday with the 50 knots is mostly going to be used up by today and decreased to the 20 and 30s that we were seeing the previous days, and significantly lessen the severe weather potential after today. But for today, that jet stream should hopefully allow for the potential for some 20 to 30 knot wind shear. If we take a look at our dew points here, starting off with a southern slight risk area, we still have tons of moisture down there, with dew points in the 50s to 60s, as well as for the northern slight risk, we do have dew points mostly in the mid-50s. This is going to help provide a lot of instability for both areas, mostly in the moderate, but strong lapse rates, as well as the deeper moisture further down south. The stronger lapse rates from what we've been seeing yesterday is going to help boost instability to possibly the 3000s in some areas. But further up north, with the dew points in the mid-50s, with strong lapse rates, are going to mostly keep CAPE levels in the 1000s to possibly the 2000s, but this stronger moisture should give it a little boost, with dew points more likely to be in the 2000s further up north than what we were seeing yesterday. Taking a look at lapse rates here, let's go to midday so we can visualize our moisture boundary as well as our strong lapse rates in the midday. You can see strong lapse rates, but here's our moisture boundary somewhat. So our deep moisture is going to be on this side, while our drier air is going to be on this side, and we can visualize our lapse rate so we can get a good idea of where we're going to see the potential for some very strong instability. Further down south, where we have the much deeper moisture in the upper 50s to 60s, we have lapse rates that are in the 9s to 8s and 7s, which is going to help boost our instability to the 2000s, the 2050s, and possibly the 3000s in some areas. But then further up north, weaker lapse rates are going to boost instability to the 2000s and 1000s, most likely not in the 3000s, as well as with the moisture, the deeper moisture that we are seeing today compared to yesterday is going to give an increase in CAPE further up north, again in the 1000s to 2000s. Taking a look at our CAPE here, I will show you why we have that to 5% further down south compared to the 2% further up north, and it all boils down to CAPE and their time frames between wind shear as well. So Going forward, you can see our cape increase due to surface heating. Further down south, you can see much stronger cape values than what's up here. As I predicted, mostly in the 1000s to 2000 range. Further down south, we have somewhere in the 3000s with the simulated values, but it's very weak, so a mixed layer cape is likely going to be much weaker, mostly in the 2500 range. However, 3000s are possible, as well as just overall being more intense than further up north. This is the primary reason that we're having the 5% further up north. So around 14 or 13 or 15 to 16 to 17Z is going to be our primary tornado threat further down south, because we have the increased cape values. But then further up north, our tornado window is likely going to be somewhere between the 20s or 19Z to the 21Z, where cape values are more increased to their most potential from the upper moderates in the 1000 to 2000 range, going down to the weaker 1000 range, and very weak triple digits, where we most likely will only get rotating supercells. So between the 19Z to 21Z range, where we have the increased cape, is likely going to be our tornado window, because around 20Z cape, it starts decreasing, but wind shear only starts developing. Taking a look at our wind shear as well as the wind shear timeframes correlating to the cape timeframes, starting with the further down south 5% tornado threat, for around the same area, around the same time frame that I was telling you guys about a few seconds ago, we have this outflow boundary here of sufficient wind shear, which is going to be the primary fueling factor for the 2% to 5% tornado threat further down south, as well as with the cape being in the more increased in the 3000s to upper 2000s range, as well as strong surface instability, and I'll show you guys that later. But then further up north, we can see that by the 19Z to 20Z time frame, sufficient wind shear begins to develop, and this is also where cape begins to decrease. So our tornado window further up north is going to be most likely around the 19Z, where sufficient wind shear begins to develop, to the 21Z, right before cape dips into the triple digit numbers. After cape does decrease to the triple digit numbers, this strong wind shear is likely going to allow for the possibility of mostly rotating supercells, and most likely not any tornadic development, mostly staying in brief rotating supercells. Now, looking at our surface instability, I will show you guys how it may aid or defect our tornadic possibilities in both locations. Starting with the 5% that's further down south, you can see very strong surface instability in the upper 1000s range, even in the 1060s, and I saw 1070s when I was writing my written forecast earlier. This is going to help aid our tornadic development, as well as boost it up to that 5% that we were seeing, as well as the 3000 cape values. But then further up north, around the 20Z range, or 20Z time frame, you can see very, very, very weak surface instability, which is going to most likely defect our tornadic possibility in the 2% area, because of how weak this surface instability is. It's most likely going to only fuel the possibility of rotating supercells, as well as large hail with the weak moderates. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down into the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator, as well as join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator, and hopefully I will see you guys tomorrow with a weekly overlook.